Why do I do this to myself? Why? Hey guys, welcome to another video. My name is Ian, I'm Ian the Reader, and today I'm back with my March TBR. Now, in February, I dabbled a little bit in mood reading. My goal is for March to really follow up on the commitments that I make this month. I have a lot of books that I have to get to for certain deadlines that I've kind of imposed upon myself. I stress myself out too much with these goals that I make sometimes, but I am enjoying the books that I'm reading, so I'm gonna let it slide this month. Hopefully come like May or maybe June, I can have a month of full-on just mood reading, but we'll see. Before we get started with the rest of the video, couple things. Let's go ahead and talk tea real quick. Today I'm drinking out of my Heck Yes mug from Target, which I love, and I'm drinking a blueberry tea, which is scaldingly hot right now because I just made it, but this is not my favorite tea, to be honest. I like it. It's pretty tart, which is not necessarily for me. It's decaf, which I'm just trying to cut back on my caffeine, so that's good, but it's not my favorite tea. It's still good, and if you like blueberry, you should totally check it out because it basically tastes like you're drinking a blueberry, but I like it all right. Last thing before we jump into the books, it would mean the world to me if you would hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I do post videos every Tuesday and Friday. If you want to stick around, I would love to talk books with you. I appreciate it so much. Now, without any further ado, let's go ahead and talk books. Now, like I said, in February, I did quite a bit of mood reading, and I had made myself a pretty expansive TBR for February to give myself some wiggle room on that. There are some books from February that I am still planning on picking up in March, but I'm not going to talk about those since I already talked about those in my previous TBR. In this video, I'm just going to talk about books that I'm currently reading and the books that I am planning on picking up in March that I hadn't planned on in February. I have also already finished 2 books in the month of February. It's the 3rd, and I have had a productive month of listening to audiobooks so far this month. I listened to these 2 audiobooks right here. Thank you so much, Nat Galley, for the early audio copies of these books, and I enjoyed both of them. I'll talk about that more in my wrap-up at the end of the month, though. Now let's go ahead and talk about the 2 books that I am currently reading. My current audiobook right now is Howling Dark by Christopher Rocchio. I actually just received in the mail my copy of Kingdoms of Death that the publisher was kind enough to send to me, and I have not caught up on the series, so I have to do that. To be honest, I wasn't necessarily planning on getting fully caught up in the series in time for Kingdoms of Death to come out. That being said, the 5th book in the Sun Eater series does come out this year as well, so my goal is just to be caught up with the series by the time book 5 comes out later this year. I think that's pretty doable. But Howling Dark is the 2nd book in the Sun Eater series. It is an epic space opera sci-fi series that has just been widely praised, not only here on BookTube, but just in general. This is like the sci-fi series going on right now. So if you're a sci-fi fan and you want something that is going to have a lot of content for you, because there are 4 books out, well, the 4th book's about to come out, and they're all quite large, this is definitely a series you're not going to want to miss. And then the book that I am currently reading in ebook format is my most anticipated release of the year, possibly. I think so. That is The Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynne. I was so excited to get an early copy of this on NetGalley, and then the publisher Orbit is going to be sending me a physical copy, which I prefer for this kind of book. I love having like a big fantasy book in my hands, and so they are sending me that, which is amazing. Thank you so much, Orbit. But this is probably my most anticipated book of the year. I loved The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne when I read it last year. It is amazing. I do have a short elevator pitch review, which is just a 5-minute review of that book. I'll go ahead and link that video down below. But this is an incredible Norse-inspired fantasy series that just started last year, so it's the perfect time to get on board with it because it is still taking off, and oh my gosh, is it epic and bloody with amazing characters, such cool magic and lore involved in the story, and it is just a wild time. I'm about 20% into the book, and I'm actually currently buddy reading it with Kyle from Reads by Kyle. I think that's the name of his BookTube channel. I'll go ahead and link that down below. But we're both really enjoying ourselves reading this book. It is so good, so addicting, and it was so easy to get right back into this book. So very, very excited to continue this book in the month of March. Now let's go ahead and talk buddy reads and read-alongs that I'm planning on participating in the month of March. So first, Jake from The Bookish Drummer is hosting a read-along of Skeleton Crew by Stephen King. He has ongoing read-alongs for lots of Stephen King content, actually. I'll go ahead and link his channel down below. You should definitely check him out. But he does read-alongs for Stephen King short story collections, and I wasn't aware of his channel in time to participate in the Night Shift read-along that he just finished up. However, in March, they are starting the Skeleton Crew read-along, and I went ahead and picked this copy up from Half Price Books so that I could participate. I am so excited. If you've been part of my channel for any length of time, you know that I love Stephen King, and I have somehow never read any of his short story collections. So I'm very, very excited to start in on this read-along. Like I said, it just started in March. On March 1st is when the first reading portion or whatever. We're supposed to read The Mist, the novella that starts off this collection. That runs the first 2 weeks of March, so it is still a great time to join in on the read-along, and it does run through, like, June, I think, because this is pretty thick. There are quite a few stories in here. So, like I said, great time to join in on the read-along. I'll go ahead and link his channel down below, and you should definitely participate if you love Stephen King. I also buddy read books with my aunt every month. She has a Bookstagram account. I'll go ahead and link that down below as well. This month, we're going to be reading A History of Wild Places by Shay Earnshaw. Both of us selected this as a Book of the Month pick a couple of months ago, and we're really excited to read this one. This is like a magical realism, mystery thriller kind of book, and I'm very, very interested in reading it. I've seen a lot of good reviews for it, so this is the month. In addition to that, we both have early copies of Blake Crouch's new novel, Upgrade, which I love Blake Crouch. He writes such thrilling science fiction thriller books, like mind-blowing science fiction stories. If you haven't read Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, it is fantastic. 5 out of 5 stars for me. His other most recent book, Recursion, was good as well, but it was more like a 4-star for me, maybe even like a 3.5. But that's just my taste. A lot of people like Recursion more than Dark Matter, but that's not the point. Super excited to be reading his newest novel, Upgrade, which I believe comes out in June. We were both just very eager about reading this book, so we're gonna go ahead and try to pick that up this month as well. It may pour over into April as well, but we're planning on starting in March. Now let's talk about the deadlines and challenges, I guess, that I've imposed upon myself over the past few months. I've made a few videos talking about my reading plans for 2022. One of those being my classics TBR. Now, my plan originally was to try to tackle 6 huge classics that I want to read in 2022. And I still plan on reading a lot of those. However, I don't quite feel ready to jump into another dense, humongous 500, 600 plus page classic just yet, because I did just finish Anna Karenina and I enjoyed it, but it was very dense and very long. And so I want to read another classic, but I don't necessarily want it to be one of those giant ones just yet. And so what my plan is now for 2022 is to still give myself 2 months to read each of the giant classics, but between those, give myself a month to just read a short classic that I'm looking forward to reading. And so I probably obviously won't read all 6 of those giant classics I was planning on, but I am still planning on reading quite a few classics in the year 2022. With all that being said, before I jump into my giant classic, in the month of March, I'm gonna go ahead and read Canary Row by John Steinbeck. John Steinbeck wrote East of Eden, which is my all-time favorite novel. Everything that book talks about and the characters and the story and the themes were so deeply personal to Steinbeck, but also just like they impacted me so personally that East of Eden is, and probably always will be, my favorite novel of all time. That being said, I haven't read a lot of Steinbeck's other works, so I am planning on picking up Canary Row. It is pretty short as well, so I am very excited about being able to fit this one in between my giant classic tomes that I'm planning on picking up this year. Another one of my commitments that I made for 2022 was to try to read 1 nonfiction book a month, and so far I've stuck to that really well, and I've been really enjoying the nonfiction that I've read. For March, I'm planning on picking up Why Fish Don't Exist by Lulu Miller. I have heard fantastic things about this book. I heard about it in someone's year-end list from last year. I can't remember who. I'll try to link it down below if I can find the video, but I'm not sure if I'll be able to. But this is a nonfiction book that the front says, a story of loss, love, and the hidden order of life. It is supposed to be very moving, but also very scientific and very informative. It's a book that I am very eager to pick up. I also really love this cover. Look how shiny that is. Very nice. That being said, having a nice, short nonfiction book will be a breath of fresh air that I am very excited to get to this month. And the last of the commitments that I've imposed upon myself is from my 5-star predictions for 2022 video. How I'm doing my 5-star predictions this year is every quarter I'm drawing 3 5-star prediction books to read throughout that quarter. Ideally 1 a month. That didn't quite work out this quarter because one of my books was The Pillars of the Earth, and that took me about 2 months to get through. So now I am in March and I have to read my other 2 5-star prediction books. Those books are A Thousand Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini, who wrote The Kite Runner, which was one of my favorite books that I read in 2019. So excited to get to this. I'm also scared because, to be honest, for some reason lately I haven't been wanting to pick up books that are like going to hurt me. And I just know that this book is going to hurt me. It's going to be very emotional. It's going to be very powerful and important, but I don't want to be hurt right now. And I know it's going to do it to me. So yeah. And then the other of those 5-star predictions is This Tender Land by William Kent Krueger. I have already dipped my toes into this book a little bit and I'm really, really enjoying it. honestly, like, I am absolutely hopeful. I'm gonna say not absolutely positive. I'm very, very hopeful that both this Tender Land and 1,000 Splendid Suns are going to be 5-star books. So hopefully this is a great month for reading. Once I've finished those 2 books up, I will go ahead and film my quarterly wrap-up for my 5-star predictions and draw my next 3 5-star predictions for Q2. So keep an eye out for that video coming, hopefully in a couple of weeks. Then there are 2 other books that I am hoping to get to this month that I haven't talked about in previous videos before. That being said, I'm not 100% sure that I will. The first of those is The Dark Knight Returns. Well, Batman The Dark Knight Returns. This is a graphic novel by Frank Miller. It is supposed to have been a graphic novel that really changed the way that Batman was respected in pop culture at the time, just because they had kind of made some campy Batman movies before this came out, and he wasn't necessarily seen in the same light as he was after this book published. And so I'm very excited to read this. I've heard great things about it from my friends who have read it, and yeah, it just looks really great. And it seems like this will be like kind of a nice palate cleanser between the more dense books that I'm planning on reading this month. Just a quick little graphic novel, and hopefully I'll love it. And the last new book that I'm planning on hopefully picking up in March is Foundry Side. This is the first book in what I assume is called the Foundry Side trilogy. I don't know what the trilogy is called, but I think that's what it's called. This is by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is a series that I've seen a lot of buzz for. I really like the covers on these. I think they're super cool. The second book, Shorefall, is also out, and the third book, which I cannot remember the name of, I'll go ahead and put it right here, but that book comes out, I believe, in June, and I do this really dumb thing, you guys, where there are series that I'm interested in, and when I get on NetGalley and I see that like the newest book that's coming out is available to request, I go ahead and request it telling myself, oh, I can just quickly catch up on the whole rest of the series. And so that's what I did with this, and I got approved for book 3, and so now I have to read book 1 and 2 so that I can read book 3. I do this a lot too, like it's a very, very toxic trait of mine. And I hate it, but I also love it. So I guess I'm gonna try to read this month. That way I can read Shorefall next month. If this has to wait until April, I'll be okay. But I have a lot of big books planned for April too. Oh my gosh. Why do I do this to myself? Why? But anyway, those are all the books that I'm planning on picking up in the month of March. Like I said, there are also some books that I talked about in my February TBR that I may try to pick up in March. I don't know what I'm doing, you guys. I'm just going with the flow, and I hope that you are too. I hope that you find some time to just rest and relax this week. I know that it is a crazy time. I hope that watching this video brought you a little bit of joy today. Please let me know down in the comments below what you guys are planning on reading in the month of March. I would love to discuss those reading plans with you and just talk books with you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!